morning, church. As I'm sure we all have guessed by now, Brother Bill can't quite make it in today. They've got the affliction, some kind of flu, I guess. Jerry's got it, he's got it, all the boys have got it, so I didn't stick around very long. It's the last thing I need. So he kind of said, surprise, you're in charge today, so this is going to be one of them crash course sermons. That being said, the Lord did show something to me. It was the night before, or the evening before yesterday, Friday evening. Kind of made me think a little bit. I was out rekindling the boiler, and I think I might have mentioned y'all last winter or so about my redneck heating. A little modified deer feeder and some garden hose and old heat exchanger. But anyway, I was about 11 o'clock previous night that it actually started winding down. I let it cool off, went inside, and you know, sometimes you'll go up, stoke the fire, and you don't expect nothing to be in there. It's cooled down over the past evening. Well, I went out there, you know, I know I'm going to have to build that fire back up. There ain't going to be nothing left in there. It's going to be cold. There ain't going to be no hot embers that late. It's been 12 hours, and that thing don't hardly hold a fire until 3 or 4 hours at a time. If you don't restock the wood in it, well, it's going to be out. Well, lifted the thing open. It's a big old heavy tin can, so it's got a 10-gallon water drum in it, so it's kind of hard to get that thing open. Got it open, started sifting around in there, and ain't no heat coming out of there, you know. All those little signs to see if there's any embers in there. Well, first it didn't look like there was anything there. It's cold. Cold and black. And I started sifting around there with my prodding rod, and lo and behold, started seeing these little glow spots starting to kick up. There's still fire in there. Got the old pipe out, blew down there in a little bit. All kinds of embers still in there. Just started glowing like crazy down in the bottom of that thing. There's enough embers there for me to just build a fire. I don't need no matches. And the Lord said, what do you see there? I see embers. What do you see there? There's a meaning there. There's a message in that. Those embers, they can get down in that soot, and you get soot built up pretty thick in them fireplaces, especially if you're burning pine like I am. Probably not a good idea to be doing that, but creosote duties every 3 or 4 days. Well, them embers can stay in that soot for a day or more, just kind of warm. And you can brush that soot off there, blow that soot off, and they'll start heating right back up, start glowing again. And he said, what do you see in that? Well, there's some few things you could see. I could see into that. Well, we got some churches out there that are like those embers. If you look at the church as a whole as a fire, we got some spots out there that are kind of cooling off a little bit. And I go back even further, a few days before that. Y'all know, I mentioned a couple Sundays ago about how I've been sort of taking the fight online. being the voice of opposition and all this acceptance. And yeah, we support weed, we support homosexuality, everything ought to be love everyone, and get along, talk. Well, somebody made the statement of how the definition of marriage is no longer that way. Marriage is whatever we want to make of it. And I presented to him, it's like, well, the biblical definition, God says that marriage is defined as not what the state wants to define it as, but God defined marriage as between one man and one woman. And the state can't change that. Well, somebody made the comment of, well, that definition, it won't be that way for long. We're changing that. Now, I got news for you. The state could say all they want. They could make up all the excuses and laws that change things they want. That don't mean the church is going to adhere to it. Separation of church and state. If it ain't lawful here, well, then I got the response, well, not every church agrees that way. There's some churches out there that are okay with it, and people the homosexuals want to get married, they're going to find a church to do it in anyway. Now the sad part about that is that that's actually true. We've got these churches that that's okay. We can look over to that. Sure, we'll marry you. You know, I had the only response I could come up with that is that the church is no longer a church. There isn't a shred of spirit left in there, and the pastor that agrees to this should have his ordination revoked. Because he's basically acknowledging that, okay, that sin's okay. We'll accept that sin. It's pretty much what they'd be saying. That's one of them churches that's laying under the soot. It's one of them churches that needs to have the soot blowed off of it, get some fresh spirit in there. Blow some of the spirit of life back into it. Whether it be a new pastor or new members in the congregation. Them embers will stay there a while. There'll still be some heat left, but eventually it's going to cool off. You look in Revelation where it says that, very bluntly paraphrasing, but God says he's going to remove the candlestick from the holder. Well, that's some of those churches. There's a lot of soot going around. There's a lot of soot being flown around in the world church. And not only just the church as a whole, but us as individuals, we can get some soot on us and kind of quench that fire a little bit. Just being in the world, you know, I mean, the day-to-day life, dealing with people, dealing with things in your life, you get a little soot on you. It's easy to do. You got to just watch the TV long enough or interact in the world long enough, and you're going to get a little soot on you. That's why you come back here. That's why you take time out of your day to read God's message, blow the soot off, get a little breath of fresh spirit in you. You come here to get built back up, gather the embers together. They get pretty warm, don't they? Get the soot blowing off. You know, there's a lot of people out there that think they know things that are going to try to throw some soot on you too. In my debating online, I ran into one or two of those. There's a guy who wanted to try to make the argument, well, where is it here? Let me find it real quick. It's Leviticus chapter 18, I think, verse 22. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. Well, in order to say, well, all this stuff about homosexuality being a big sin is just a misinterpretation of the Bible. Uh, it's all been mistranslated, and that's not really what it means. It's really, you know, I read that and I cannot bend that way without breaking it. Exactly what I told him too. And then he came back with that word abomination. That in the original language was the word tobia, which in certain dialects can mean taboo or unacceptable to a certain group. Okay, all right. Even if that is the proper translation, and you're still not getting yourself out of it. People are trying to pick and pull things apart and get words out isolated and say, well, the meaning was not so bad back then. I said, look at the context. Read the whole thing. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself. Neither shall that any woman stand before a beast to die down to thereto. It is confusion. Defile not ye yourselves any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I have cast out before you. And the land is defiled. Therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomited out their inhabitants. Even if that meaning is not abomination, as in shouldn't exist on the face of the earth, it's still saying that don't do this. This is a bad thing. This is taboo. You want to call it taboo? All right. It's still a sin and it's still detestable before God. But no, they want to try to make that sin a little less taintful for them. One of them tried to make a statement, well, Jesus never said anything about homosexuality, so therefore it's not that bad, right? Yeah. Well, back then, we had these two, well, they used to have these two towns called Sodom and Gomorrah. It didn't really have to say much, I don't think. I think what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah ought to be pretty good sign. You don't do this. I shouldn't have to tell you all about it. You've seen what happens. And yes, it does condone it in the New Testament too. So people are going to throw that plaque around. I've been dealing with getting piled on that piles of soot all week. There are some very adamant, ignorant people in the world, and they're determined to find some way to make their sin okay. Needless to say, I said I was probably going to end up being very disliked on the internet, and yeah, people don't like to hear what I have to say now. We're not here to win popularity contests. The truth is the truth. There's a lot of people on there that are Christian, but they're afraid to say anything because they might not, people might not like what they have to say. They might get downvoted. They call it downvoting when you've either got two options on somebody's comment. You can upvote it, means you like it. You can downvote it, means you dislike it. Well, I'm getting a lot of downvotes. We're not here to win a popularity contest. Somebody was trying to make that statement of how it, like I said, how the definition of marriage is changing and all this. I was like, you know what? No, what was it? It was not that. That was somebody was trying to make the context of, well, you shouldn't judge them just because such and such. It's like, basically saying, judge not lest ye be judged, how they like to use that line. Well, we're supposed to judge righteously, ain't we? When he said, judge not lest ye be judged, he's talking to the Pharisees. He's telling us, the Christian folk, to judge righteously. It means you call sin, sin, and it should not be tolerated. Really didn't get a good response from that one. People didn't want to hear that there is black and white, sin is sin, and we shouldn't tolerate sin just because it's acceptable by society's standards, or because, uh, oh, it's just how they were born, it's a genetic problem. No, no, it's not. There's no genetics that get passed around that, I mean, how could you, right? I saw something comment, but we should also isolate the homosexuals so that they can't reproduce. Okay, maybe you should go back and rethink your comment, but all right. I don't think that's how the genetics work there. It's not a genetics thing, it's a lifestyle choice. There's a lot of soot going around and being flung around church. We gotta make sure we don't get piled up under it and get cooled off. Keep our light shining. It can be pretty tough, especially when you're man in the front lines like I am on the internet here on these chat forums, trying to stick up for what's right and keep the backs of those other Christians that are trying to do likewise. Sure, one of us alone would get stamped out amongst the ball of flooding opposition. We start looking out for each other. Well, it's sort of like them hot coals. You get them grouped up together, they'll stay hotter longer, won't they? But it's pretty obvious that there's a big wave of this soot flying at us. I mean, it's coming hard now. I've seen a lot. It's overwhelming. People just congratulating these homosexuals. They got married. Congratulations, you're a wonderful couple. All this good stuff. That gets all kinds of upvotes. So the wave is coming. The wave is here. Wave is here, I should say. We need to be praying for individuals, for the church. I think the church needs a revival. Not just individual churches like here or there. The church as a whole. We need to start working together, getting involved. Like churches working together, like the last what was it, picnic we had the other church involved with that. I think that's a good thing. We ought to see more of that. That's good to get churches working together, get something kindled up, start forming bonds, gathering the hot coals. You know, these little isolated churches, they can fade out and get the soot piled up on them and cool down like any individual can. I think we need to see just a rekindling of the entire church. It's the only way that I think that we're going to be able to make a difference in this nation, is if we start banding together, because it's going down south pretty quick, ain't it? All right, one last piece of scripture here before I wind down. From Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 20. Where no wood is, there the fire go out. So where there is no table bearer, the strife ceaseth. As coals are burning, two burning coals, and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. If there's a place in Scripture where somebody could try to take something out of context or say, well, there's a contradiction in the Bible, they're going to make strife. That's their wood for their fire. Just like where I mentioned in Leviticus. That man was trying to bend that out of context, wrap it around. People will find every way in the world. I've seen more comments online about how the Bible contradicts itself here and here and here and here and here. They're just looking for kindling for their fire. Keep their hate fired up so they can make strife and fuel their idea that the Bible is a fairy tale and full of contradictions. I'm like, well, if you're getting contradictions out of the Bible, it's not because there's an error in the text is because your understanding isn't complete. Because you don't have the Spirit guiding you to make sense out of everything. But where no wood is, the fires go out. Mm. Yeah, you got to keep wood on the fire to keep it hot, don't you? Otherwise, it goes out. Sure, them coals will stay hot for a while, but you don't stoke your fire every once in a while. We need to have fresh wood in the church. Get the Spirit built up. Have revivals, reunions, renewals. Keep the Spirit fresh. That's where prayer comes in. That's where inviting people into the church comes in. Getting together with other churches. Maybe having another church over for a get together. Bringing new ideas in, new fuel, Bible discussions, all this stuff. I mean, anything that can get you interested in the Bible. I mean, you got to stay interested. You got to want to have the will to keep the fire hot. If you're just going through the motions and coming to church just to hear the message, going through the motions, going home, is that keeping the fire kindled? We got to pray to have the drive, to have the will, to have the Spirit. The Holy Spirit, that's your fuel. That's all I've got, church. If anybody has anything else, we still got a few minutes.